If that's the case, welcome everyone. Good to see you all. Welcome to Ben particularly. And I know very little other than that you're representing Safe Haven, and it would be good to sort of unpack that. Being cheapskates, we've only got a 40-minute Zoom here, and then it sort of fades. But if we need to go over that time, all we do is go back onto the link again.
The presentation should only take 10-15 minutes at max, with questions, really. So we try, because otherwise you can make it a lot more cumbersome, but I think 15 minutes is enough, to be honest. You hear me drone on for more than that. You don't.
That's fine. And do you mind taking questions at the end of it?
No, at the end I've got a PowerPoint to go through.
Okay, so that's grand.
So there's questions, but then stop me during it as well, because sometimes you can get into that habit of just droning on, and sometimes when someone throws a question in, it sort of puts you on the spot, doesn't it? So
I was going to suggest that the rest of us actually went on to mute, just in case the dogs start barking in the background or whatever. So without further ado, welcome Ben, and we'll hand over to you.
Oh, I've gone.
Welcome,
right,
everyone.
Maggie.
What I'll do is I'll share my screen. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
All right. Is that big enough for everyone?
Don't know where I've gone. It's okay. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's all right for me.
Yeah, all right for me. Yeah, great.
Oh, lovely. So as you can see, it's an introduction to Safe Haven. We are a crisis and recovery centre. I'm Ben Greenwood. I'm one of two senior recovery navigators at the service. We're made up of three recovery navigators, two senior recovery navigators, and a manager, Tammy. I think you've had communication with her up to this point. She sends her apologies. She's actually on annual leave, so I got roped in to do the presentation, which is a good thing. So a little bit about the Safe Haven. So we're a crisis and recovery centre supporting clients over 16 years of age, in the evening hours, 7 days a week between 6 p.m. and midnight. It was co-designed with people with lived experience and sort of having to live with their own mental health and also addiction recovery illnesses. So that, and also some of the staff from Second Step as well. So we do, in Second Step, we do a lot of service user involvement groups to try and build services and also to develop services. So that was a good experience. The centre offers in-person support on the boulevard in Weston-super-Mare, and our catchment area is North Somerset and South Gloucestershire, so it's quite a big catchment area. So we offer crisis intervention and crisis prevention, and as well as sort of navigating, sort of signposting out to other services so people can get their needs met. Generally, when people come over to the service, it's quite often first contact mental health, and they're overwhelmed and they don't know, they've lost a little bit of hope, and they come in, and what we try and do is we hold hope for them. We make the Safe Haven, whether that be telephone support, Zoom support, or face-to-face, somewhere that's safe for them, that they can come and share things that they wouldn't be able to share with other people, and also look for ways to help them in their recovery, promoting independence. There has to be a level of sort of engagement there. It's a done with service rather than a done to. That engagement needs to be there, otherwise, well, you get in what you put out, don't you? And most people that come in tend to get a lot out, and they go off with things to take with them, tasks we give them, and also things to promote their own recovery. Part of it is that it's short-term intervention, so it's up to 3 months. We can work with people quite intensely in that time, whether that be 2 or 3 face-to-face support sessions a week. But then what we do is people sort of get discharged, but then they can re-refer themselves back into the service at any point. So it's because we know recovery is not linear, so it comes back, so they can come back at any point, which is that sort of adds to the level of hope really for people to come in regards to recovery. As at the bottom, like it says, we accept self-referrals, professional referrals, and also I think people from other organisations like yourself, and also they're on the referral form, which I'll send over to you guys. We have a 24-hour, 24 to 72 and 7-day box to tick. So if you think someone's in crisis and they need support that evening, what we endeavour to do is get them supported. When we get a referral in, the senior recovery navigators, myself and Pete Hollins, we endeavour to do all the referrals that evening. So we try and make first contact within hours of actually sending a referral in, so people get that support straight away. And that's part of the reason for the service, is that people were waiting weeks or even months for services when they're in crisis. So it makes, so they're very happy and very relieved when they get that. They're quite, some of them are quite shocked, to be honest. Here's the service. So I don't know whether you've seen it on the boulevard, just down from the Tesco's on the metro. So it's very, we try to make it very recovery focused, not clinical, and it's sort of a nice safe place for people to come. It is, like I said, on a booking appointment availability, because we thought that if we were to, the boulevard's notorious for like the homelessness pathway and people living rough, and if we would have been spread quite thin if we had done like a drop-in. So doing it this way, people still come to the service though and knock on the door and ask. And what we do is we've got a front office bit that we can take people in, and we can take their details, tell them what we do, and say what we do is we get in contact with you ASAP with an appointment. And also what that does is it keeps the service safe, so you haven't got people coming and going. We try and keep people in the room separate, and then so they're not meeting people as and when they're coming out if they're in crisis, which is really important. So some of the support we offer. So RAP plans, they're wellness recovery action plans. So sort of getting well, having a whole scope of how the clients are when they're well, but also when they're unwell. So when they do become unwell or start to get unwell, they've got a plan then, and they know what to do, like reaching out, like picking up the phone to people, and things that you forget when you're in crisis. De-escalation techniques, things like mindfulness and grounding techniques, breathing exercises. We do group work as well around anxiety management, which we started over the last 8 weeks, and also mindfulness groups, just those 2 at the moment, and they're very small groups. But generally what happens is people come, they get supported maybe for a couple of months, they get to know the team, and then we'll say, right, as part of developing your recovery, come to the groups, and then that can be like an add-on when they're getting discharged. And sort of then we've also got a wellbeing service in the day, a recovery service in the day for people that are a bit further along with their recovery, the second step do. Risk assessments, we do stay in safe plans as well. On the first meeting, if people are overwhelmed and in crisis, what we do is we've got these things called MyCore, which outline staying safe, protective factors, what people can do to stay safe, and also goals, a couple of goals for the future. Because what we identified, and also the service users identified, when you walk into support, when you've been in crisis for a long time, they don't know what they want. They just want to be out of crisis, and they can't see the wood for the trees. So to get things down and to have a look at regular intervals, their progress is really beneficial. We can also make referrals to all of the normal services like North Somerset Psychological Liaison, Vitamines for CBT and other intensive therapies and other sort of counselling, short-term counselling services. So it's people generally come in. Quite a lot of the referrals we get are from North Somerset PCLS and the community mental health teams. And people tend to try and put all their eggs in one basket, either going to the doctors or going to the mental health team. But what we try and do is, if that's right for them, that's good, if they can stick with that, but also giving them alternatives for their own recovery. So they're not, because services like the mental health team are time specific, and generally when people get discharged, they're left feeling as if they're let down and they haven't got lots of support in place. So we try to put that support in place and look for things that they wouldn't obviously, and things that like the recovery teams or the intensive teams generally wouldn't sort of signpost people to. So some of the figures. This is when we started in the service. We were a telephone service from the year before, during lockdown, up to we came into the service in February, and these were the figures in the first couple of months. So you can see that we had on average 413 telephone and Zoom contacts, 93 face-to-face over 2 months, and 506 appointments in total. And so if we sort of move forward, it's got a lot busier since then. So over the last 2 months, we've supported 740 clients. So that's getting on for double from when we started. That's 216 face-to-face. So the face-to-face appointments have gone up. The preferred method is the telephone service. People struggle to get out, and also the telephone calls are about 45 minutes. People do sort of transition coming into the face-to-face, but we're still seeing probably only about 25% people come in for face-to-face appointments. So 524. So, and like last month we filled 133% of available slots, so we're up 33. So we're on average we're doing about 13 or 14 clients an evening, which you can imagine going from half that to that. It's been a baptism of fire. And we're at the moment we're recruiting for more recovery navigators, and we did have a triage service from the mental health team. It's like a safe place for people to come while they're being assessed by the mental health teams. Is somewhere they can stay, and then they can have a mental health assessment, and they can either get discharged and then we can give them support leading on from that, or then they can be admitted into hospital, into a psychiatric unit. That hasn't really taken off because of the hours we do it, and also I think the need, we were accepting referrals, but most people were asking to be supported maybe the day after, and then we're linking in and people then didn't need mental health assessments, which is a good thing. We're sort of plugging that support where people weren't getting any support at all, but then thinking they need to go straight into a psychiatric unit. Sort of no middle ground. There aren't that many services sort of plugging that hole in the North Somerset area. I think we were the first one to do it. So 100% of clients would recommend services to friends and family, and we get roughly about 100 unique clients to the service every month. That's gone up slightly this month, but it's still good. I mean, about one in 4 is a new client in every month, which is really good. I think we're averaging out about eight referrals every day we have to action, which is really good. The service is definitely needed. And then I did speak a bit about the referral pathway. So at the moment, the PCLS has sort of taken up about 30% of referrals. Self-referrals is about the same, which is really good because that was only about 10% when we started. So people are hearing about us and also knocking on the door, hearing from friends, which is what we want really. We want to be able to, because I don't know how many, I don't know whether your service is in Western or not. I should have done a bit of research really, but Western, there's a lot of sort of undiagnosed mental health issues and people struggling because the mental health services have been stripped quite a lot in the past. So to get the self-referrals, we're seeing a lot of people that have been in the system for decades, some of them, and they've gone to try and get support, but they haven't quite met criteria for certain services. So it's really good to be able to support people and see them develop and going out there and finding their own recovery and not dependent on A&E, not dependent on the sort of calling the police when they're in crisis, or the GPs or the mental health teams. And also GPs make about 10%. Quite a lot of the self-referrals come from the GP actually giving information for us. So that's the figures could be GP a little bit more than that, but it's and also other services like yourselves come to about 10%. So referral, I can send over the referral forms afterwards. So basically we've got like a one-page referral form just outlining the client, their current issues, what's going on from at the time, what they've disclosed to you, people you think are in crisis. You can, I think quite a lot of the services actually sit with the client and fill it in, or they fill it in as well, making it a little sort of promoting independence, and then just send it over. And then, like I said, we endeavour to reply to that on the same day as it's sent. Very rarely do we do it the day after. We try and get the referrals done on the same day and get people booked in for support the same day, depending on the level of crisis and what their needs are at the same time. Service developments, like I said, the aim of the service is to reduce the need for A&E when in crisis, and also the police. We're in partnership with the AWP and St Mungo's and the control room street triage team, so that people can be referred straight into the service within an hour and get support that evening. And also, if needed, the mental health teams can conduct mental health assessments at the service. So a minimum of 10 appointments available per evening. That's gone up to about 14, to be honest, over with the triage. We started off triaging people at 5 o'clock in the evening, but then after about a month of being in the service, we had the seniors had to then come in at 3 to be able to triage before the clients came in for support. So we needed 2.5 hours at least to triage before the recovery navigators came in, also to make sure that we're sort of supernumerary in the evenings, because people are calling up in crisis, and what we try and do as the seniors, we try and hold them there and maybe give them 10-15 minute support just to bring them back down to baseline. I think, and we're getting a lot more complexity of clients. We found that people that have been around the services quite a bit, that are coming in. We're very compassionate, and we're endeavour to try and support anyone that calls up in the evening, which, as you can imagine, is very difficult, especially if for some like we're short staffed, but on 9 times out of 10 we do that, to our detriment sometimes. But I think it's sort of, it builds that trust with people. It makes it very easy to support and engage with people. And also when they get to the point where they are ready to be discharged, it makes it a lot easier, because they've also know they've got a safety net to come back to. They've got groups, and if they want to sort of transition over to the day service, that's their fault, and they're not sort of getting told where you can go off now, and not having any support, sort of layered support out there for them. So we've got flyers and things as well that we can send over afterwards, so they're good to. And the thing is, we encourage people not to always sit there and do the referral forms. Actually, give the flyers out to people. Say, would you be interested in this? These people can help you, and you can get referred very quickly and get support straight away. They deal with, and then also, or give them our number as well, and we can speak to them in the evening. I think the important thing is to get people the support ASAP, and that really helps with crisis and mental health. Hope and trust is one of the biggest things, and like I said, in regards to the safe haven, quite a lot of the staff have got their own lived experience of having their own mental health issues or recovery, alcohol and drugs. Second Step promote recovery orientated practice and have done since the 90s. They're based in Bristol mostly. And what we try and do is we try and with service user involvement groups, make it like a dual process and create services that sort of build links where we can see there's a need, and within mental health services, in between the doctors and the mental health services, there's a big gap in need for services, and we sort of saw that in North Somerset. We've got similar services in Bristol with AWP, and we sort of took that model and brought it over to North Somerset, Western particularly. We have got Mendip as well. We got services in Mendip, Sedgemoor, and yeah, and I think that's I think you've heard me drone on for long enough, to be honest. Any questions?
Be back off mute.
Yeah.
Well, that's a fair amount of information to take in a short space of time. Yeah, I mean, obviously, you've got that's a lot of numbers of people you're dealing with there, isn't it?
Definitely, yeah, we've definitely felt it. We've definitely felt it.
I noticed that the email address had nhs.net. So are you part of the NHS?
We're commissioned by the CCG.
Oh,
so,
I see. Okay.
Yeah, so we're commissioned. We're not actually NHS. We're managed by Second Step, but we're commissioned by the CCG. So it's a clinical commissioning group. Yeah. So we are sort of NHS, yeah, but we're employed by Second Step, the staff.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. You talked about tasks that you would give people to go away with, which I was intrigued with, because what form would that take?
Well, there's things like grounding techniques and things like if we were supporting someone and they were struggling to maybe go to the doctor or doing exercise and things, or finding difficulty being overwhelmed with anxiety, having panic attacks, or maybe even hearing voices, there's different networks we can signpost or refer people to, and also give people like grounding techniques, and we can do those face to face or over the phone with people. And then what I'll do is during that, when they're saying, yeah, that was really good, I will then go, I'll use my support worker manipulation to say, right, if that worked for you, what I want you this week to do is look at this form and try 2 different grounding techniques. And then they'll go off and then they'll come back the next week and I'll ask them. I think sometimes people struggle with that. People need a kick up the arse, to be honest. They've been overwhelmed for a long time, and it's we could use that sort of subtle manipulation as that trust you build. You can push people to do things and get people feeling better about themselves, because one of the first things that gets knocked is their self-worth and confidence, isn't it, in mental health?
Yeah, of course it is. And do you find that that's good? When they come back and see you the following week, they've actually explored those things?
Well, it's most of the time, not always. Some people take a few weeks, yeah, but people do, and they go off, and it's great to see people when they call for the first time and they're crying and they're in tatters basically, and they're struggling, they can't see any hope, they don't feel as if they can speak to their family because they're a burden, and then they come in, they're very untrusting because they've tried to link in with services, and you see the growth. It's really good. Most of the experience the recovery navigators got, and me and Pete have got, working with complex needs within high support accommodation, and also acute like PQ wards as well. So seeing so clinical interventions, but also done in like a recovery focused way. So not in the same way as the NHS, a little bit more woollier. So we can do the little bits that the mental health teams and stuff can't do. We can sort of reach those goals that other people, which is really nice to do with people.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I mean, the first thing is to get people to like engage, as you said before, because we've got tenants that I know who just want to shut themselves away. So they would be people we could suggest would contact you, because obviously once they get to a point where they want to shut themselves away, that's when they don't deal with their bills, they don't care if their rent's paid, and that's where our support work comes in from our side of it, that we try and have to get them to maintain their tenancies above all things. So it's a bit of a similar thing to you. You've got to
Definitely, yeah,
take a holistic approach to everything, because everybody's different on how they deal with things, and also they're different in how much help they're willing to accept. You can't push it because they withdraw even further sometimes, but so they've got to be willing to make the first few steps, haven't they?
And with the and I think with yourselves being like the service, that can be a block, but we can be those people that they can have, if they can't get out, we can do telephone support, and then say try and push it over a bit of time to get them into the service, and then look at those things that they're struggling with and be very specific. We could just work on tenancy sustainment in the time we've got, and we haven't got any we haven't got any parameters around sort of key performance indicators around support. So we're very blessed with that. We can focus and direct the support ourselves. And most, like yourselves, most services don't have that capability to do that. So we're blessed in that respect. We don't have to prove how we're supporting people, just that we are supporting.
Well, we have to do reports to funders which show that we are sort of making a difference, really, doesn't it?
We have to do the same with the CCG, but it's not. It's more about people not using emergency services and ambulance 999 and the numbers, and also seeing where people are getting signposted out to and whether they're returning into services like acute services again. So it's the same sort of key performance indicators, but it's more around getting people the support they need, and making sure that it's not like a revolving door for the emergency services, which it can be, can't it, for people?
Yeah.
I think you mentioned sort of criteria, and that you didn't have specific criteria to take somebody on. Is that really the case?
That is, yeah. So we're basically we adopt the no wrong door philosophy. So if people refer in, that meets criteria basically. Okay. So they can come in. We can then say, so why are you with us? If some people say, well, I'm having difficulties with my housing, I'm having difficulties with being homeless, and within that they'll say it's causing me anxiety, and that would be enough for us to say, right, we can support you around these different things. Some people come in for one session, get what they want, and they leave and they don't come back. Other people have been coming in and out for like 18 months.
Yeah, they like the tea.
So you get complex people, they come in, but I don't think that would change for them, to be honest. They look for services to get supported, and they need that baseline to be supported constantly. And if you take that away, they tend to dive. Their mental health gets a lot worse. So.
Do you ever initiate contact with them or initiate follow-up if somebody hasn't turned up?
We do, yeah. After support, what we do is we will try, if it's face-to-face, we try and call. If it's a telephone support, we call them, And then if they don't answer, we leave a message if possible, and then we call again in 10 minutes. If it's face to face, if they don't turn up within 10 minutes, we call them and either leave a message if it's possible, or we email them as well to say, please refer back in. If it's someone we know that's in acute crisis, we tend to go, that normally gets referred over to us, the seniors, to give them a call in the evening or the day after to make sure they're okay. But generally what happens is, because we use Rio, the same as the NHS, and if they're linked in with the street triage team, the emergency services, or the mental health team, we get updates on the Rio of what's happening. So we generally know what's there, but we don't chase people down. We say to people when we refer and they get referred in that basically if you do miss an appointment, we will try and contact you. If you don't want to speak to us, don't sort of make that prevent you from coming back at a later date. Don't think that we're going to bear a grudge. We don't bear a grudge. We're all very easygoing, so people can come straight back in. Because people they'll use that as a way of not coming back in to get support when they're struggling. Because one of the things is, like you said, engagement, isn't it? And people are struggling to, they might come for a couple of support sessions, and then that might bring up feelings they don't particularly want to deal with, and then they'll go off, not come, and then they feel bad they haven't met with the support worker, and then think that's a reason not to come back.
We're less than 5 minutes now. Any other sort of questions that burning on people's hearts?
No, I was just wondering, like you said, you had 500 odd phone calls or something, was it, on the sheet? So would you say that most of those people, it's quite a short interaction? Because I mean, you don't obviously deal in great depth with that number of people. Are they just people that have got, like you said, something quite simple to sort out? Or because that's quite a lot.
It's 45 minutes, so but that's individual support calls. So some people can have 20 supports with 45-minute phone calls. So that in total, that's quite a lot of support time in a short period. Some people, if you have the telephone calls are shorter, the face-to-face is between an hour and a half. So generally people come once a week. Some people come twice a week if they're in acute crisis, but also I think it can be, I think generally the estimated length of support is about 2.5 months.
Right.
I mean, it was going to be a month to start off with, but within about a month or so, we realised that wasn't. It wasn't going to happen. We couldn't discharge people who were still in crisis, so we give between 2 and 3 months generally, and then we try to window it down after 2, and then people can always refer. Most people don't refer back. 85–90%, I reckon, don't refer back in. It's only a small minority that actually do.
Well, when you think about it, you think, what did all those people do before your service started up? The frightening thing.
They didn't go anywhere. We do feedback forms, and that's one of the questions. What would you do if we weren't here? And what did you do when we weren't here? And most people put nothing, or A&E, or GP, and generally don't get very far. They get referred over to mental health teams and don't get picked up because they're under so much pressure at the moment. The criteria has gone up since the beginning of lockdown, as you can imagine. And they've got 3 times more people on their caseload since the beginning of the lockdown.
Okay, Andy. I think. Sorry, Ben. I don't know why you morphed into Andy then, but thank you very much. That's really useful. I think that's opened up all our eyes, really. And you're obviously just a couple of doors down the street.
Exactly. So that's the good thing, isn't it? Yeah. So if there's any question, what I'll do is I'll send an email over to the contact that I've got with the referral forms, with our numbers, and also mine and Pete's email addresses. So if you've got any questions, or if you think about a referral, always just send us over an email if you've got any questions, and we'll endeavour to answer it ASAP so you can get the referral in, or just fill out a referral form, let the client know that we'll contact him, and we can do the majority of the talking on the triage and assessment bit.
Right, well, thank you very much. We would normally give you a round of applause and things, but you can hear the clapping, can't you? So thank you ever so much, Ben, for coming, and that's been really great.